sister, right? Portal has the weighted companion cube, which is not even a character, right? It's a box with a texture map on it. But it happened in an explorational way. The way it happened was the team decided it would be cool to have a level with a bunch of puzzles where you carry a crate from one end to the other, using it in different ways and with the portals and stuff to circumvent all these puzzles, right? And they did that, and they saw that because there had been crates earlier in the game that were different, like players didn't quite understand, that they should bring this crate all the way. So they said, well, maybe we should mark the crate as being special, and they got the idea of putting this heart on it, right? They noticed that people felt kind of weird about like getting rid of their crate at the end of the level after doing all that stuff. So then they contrived this whole great situation where the narrator computer pretends that this is like your imaginary pet rock kind of friend, and you cannot exit the level without throwing this crate in the incinerator and being accused of murdering it, right? And this actually works really well. It works at least as well as Bioshock. So here's a poster on the Quarter to 3 forum saying, it's a measure of Bioshock's quality. He disagrees with me. He actually likes Bioshock, but we'll go on. It's a measure of Bioshock's quality that killing little girls actually made me, a jaded and manipulative gamer, feel guilty and slightly uncomfortable. But Portal actually made me guilty and slightly uncomfortable about throwing a crate into a pit. That's pretty damn impressive. And it's true. I had exactly the same reaction. I tried for 20 minutes to like outwit the computer and somehow open the door without putting the crate into the pit. It wasn't possible, and I eventually gave up and I murdered him. But, what else are you going to do? So what I have to get from that is maybe just the idea that this traditional way that we think about when we try to design a game for people to empathize with, like the Alex Vance kind of thing or the little sister kind of thing, where we try to make this very human character that interacts with you a lot, maybe that's the wrong direction, or maybe it's not the only direction, and maybe gameplay itself can give us some other things. So my last topic is listening skills. This is a topic actually from the martial arts. And there it refers not to listening with your ears, but with your body, right? So if you're fighting somebody, and they're going to punch you and you like block them, right? Well, what are you going to do? You can fight back by like pulling their arm down and like, I'm going to punch you in the head. You could do that, but it takes a lot of energy and it has a high probability of failure, right? But there's other things you can do, right? Since you've got this point of contact, you don't have to like watch them do something and then react to when they're going to come at you again. You can feel them, right? And as they move their arm and move their body, you can follow that, and then at a chosen moment, just react in a way that takes advantage of the situation, right? That's harmonious with what you want to do and what they're trying to do, but that achieves your agenda. And what I want to say here is that we can apply this kind of idea in game design. So I was talking before about how do you merge architecture with exploration. Portal started with exploration and added architecture, but I think we can also go the other way with games that are largely architected. But the problem is that it's hard to listen if you're shouting all the time, right? If your game development process is always about fighting fires and enforcing this design from the top down, right, and hammering the code and the art into doing what you want to do, then you blind yourself to the possibilities that are being revealed. And I want to illustrate some of those possibilities now. Here's an old game called Smash TV, which hopefully a lot of you guys have played. It's another 8-way shooter. And basically it takes place in this arena, and guys come through these 4 doors on the sides and try to attack you and kill you. And it's very important in Smash TV whether these doors are open or closed, right? If they're closed, you can kind of stand around them and feel sort of safe. But if they're open, you can't really be safe there because guys are going to rush through at any minute and kill you. Notice, though, that because of the camera perspective chosen for this game, which was pretty much an arbitrary artistic decision, you can't see the door on the south side of the screen. You can't tell whether it's open or closed. But it's super important for gameplay, right? What that does is it makes the bottom half of the screen this extra danger zone, right, which I've sort of colored in red. You don't really want to be standing around the bottom of the screen in Smash TV because you don't know how safe it is. You feel extra nervous. It's this extra little ripple in the game design that makes it more wonderful to play, right? Without that red zone, the screen would pretty much be like this flat surface of like equal danger everywhere in its steady state. Here in its steady state, it's uneven, right? It is more variety for gameplay. And when you would die sometimes in Smash TV, like some prizes show up down toward the bottom and they're really tempting and you run to grab them and you get killed, it feels fair. Because you knew that was a situation. You learned through play, right? Your mental model contained the fact that you can't really know what's down there. There might be a landmine behind the wall or whatever, and you knew what you were getting into when you went down there, and it feels fair. Now, interestingly, Smash TV had a sequel called Total Carnage, which starts out in a jungle. Unfortunately, I didn't have a screenshot of the jungle, so I have some vans here or whatever. Pretend these military vehicles are trees. So what would happen in Total Carnage, and this happens very early in the game, is that there are landmines placed that you have to avoid, and some of these landmines will be placed behind trees, right? Exactly in the way that things could be hidden behind that wall in Smash TV. But there's a difference. And the difference is that in Total Carnage, none of that is random or the circumstance of gameplay. It's the level designer specifically put that mine there to kill you when you walk behind the tree. But the problem is you want to search behind the trees and all that because there's things you need. There's these keys that you need to get into the Pleasure Dome, supposedly. So you feel just totally screwed. It feels like this sadistic situation where the level designer just wants to kill you. It doesn't feel fair, right? So this is a really interesting case where we have something that arose out of exploration that felt natural and improved the game. And it was reused in the sequel in a more architected way without sufficiently listening to the effects on the player, and it was a detriment to the game. And I don't think it's a coincidence that while Smash TV was a huge arcade hit, not that many people have played Total Carnage, right? It didn't really have that much success. Another one, Pac-Man Championship Edition, which is a wonderful game. It's a sequel to the original Pac-Man, of course. And in Pac-Man, these ghosts are chasing you, trying to kill you. But you can eat a power pill, and when you do that, the ghosts turn blue and run away, and you can chase them and eat them if you want. But anyway, you're safe for the duration of that power pill, right? But how do you know how long you're safe? Well, when the ghosts are about to turn mean again and be ready to harm you, they'll flash, right? They'll flash blue to white, and then they come back after you. There's this interesting interaction where in the original Pac-Man, certainly, if you were to eat all four of the ghosts, then you no longer have a visual indicator of when that timer is going to end. Now, in the original Pac-Man, that didn't necessarily matter too much, but in Pac-Man Championship Edition, it's very important because you can eat chains of power pills and drive up the bonus multiplier by eating more than 4 ghosts. You want to eat as many ghosts as you can in a row. So there's this wonderful sort of interaction. You want to eat a power pill at the last minute before the timer expires so you can maximize your ghost chasing time, right? But so you want to effectively know very accurately when that last second is. But if you eat all the ghosts, which you want to do to maximize your score, then you have a much vaguer idea of when you can go on and eat the next power pill, right? So it's a very interesting interaction that actually was improved from one game to the sequel, right? And I find that remarkable given the large number of things that were changed between the original Pac-Man and Pac-Man CE. Like the original Pac-Man had cutscenes, right? How many games that had cutscenes eliminate cutscenes for the sequel? It's crazy. So if you look for little delightful little design ripples that happen like these, you'll see them all over. Not only in older games, but in newer games. Not only in other people's games, but in your own games, right? If you're working on a big game, it's AAA, it's got 200 people working on it, it's very story-based. In story-based games, it can be hard to do this kind of exploration because you're trying to create believable characters, and anytime something weird happens, you have to squish it because you lose suspension of disbelief. And what can you do? And I would just say, it's not my preferred environment to work in, but I would say that if that's your job, is to fix those design problems instead of capitalizing on them and exploiting them, then you could at least notice those little things that you've explored before you squish them, feel what they feel like, and feel maybe where they could go, even just for a minute, right? And then squish them. But you've built a little bit of listening skill, right? And over time, you build it stronger and stronger, and someday when you go start your own studio, you'll have an advanced sense of listening, and that'll be very useful. So here's my conclusion, in as much as I have one. No. Here it is. So I'm going back to that quote at the beginning. As cinema matured, films developed the power to transform as well as to entertain. Video games are poised to enter a similar golden age, right? As a designer, I want to see that golden age, right? I want to see us harness this power to transform society that Daniel also wants to see. But I'm a designer now because once a long time ago, I was a gamer, right? I was a little kid who